For the RST time since the Great Recession, half the countries we survey have fallen into the distruster category. N.P. He argued that this was due to the failure of key institutions to provide answers or leadership in response to events such as the refugee crisis, data breaches, China's stock market downturn, Ebola in West Africa, the invasion of Ukraine, the FIFA bribery scandal, VW's manipulation of emissions data, massive corruption at Petrobras, and exchange rate manipulation by the world's largest banks. N.P. According to the public media, Britain is suffering a huge loss of faith in its institutions. Trust in all politicians has slumped to an all-time low. Slack, 2016, N.P. Also, survey studies report that the trust of the American people has decreased across the last decade. Zazumbo Kolunga, Zekmeister, and Seligso, 2010. Academic research has not escaped the crisis of trust, and there are reports that a substantial number of NDings presented in journals are inaccurate and biased, e.g., Walia, 2015. The bulk of support for the idea of trust in crisis is derived from surveys in popular forums that typically assess general views. The NDings from surveys are questionable, but they serve the dual function of expressing public concern about trust, i.e., anxiety regarding it, and shaping public opinion regarding trust. The survey NDings convey a simple message to a waiting public. Trust is in crisis and it is on the decline. Implicit in the survey reports is the notion that the world has become more corrupt and untrustworthy. It is very difficult to confirm or deny that conclusion, because of lack of evidence. It is fair to say that corruption and untrustworthiness have been present throughout the course of human history. Machiavelli tested to this in the late 1400s. What is clear is that access to information revealing people's untrustworthiness is greater than at any time in human history. Because of technology and social media, every action is conveyed to millions of people in the blink of an eye, and is held up for public scrutiny. UNDERSTANDINGTRUST. A crisis OREVERYTHING. Excerpted from the Psychology of Trust, Chapter 441. This change has resulted in an unequaled opportunity for critical evaluation of people's behavior, the detection of untrustworthiness, and the expression of lack of trust in others, especially regarding those individuals in the public eye. The emphasis on crises in trust unfortunately diverts our attention from the notion that trust is essential to day-to-day social interaction and the formation and maintenance of interpersonal relationships. See Rodenberg, 2010. From my perspective, trust is analogous to dark matter in the physical universe. Dark matter is an extensive but difficult to detect substance that binds planets and terrestrial material. Similarly, trust is a prevalent but often silent force that connects people and ensures social relationships and social functioning in modern society. I am certain that without it, our social universe would not exist. The preceding may seem like a bold assertion, but careful consideration shows that even the simplest social acts involve trust. For example, I went for lunch in the university building the other day. I bought American street food and a bottle of ZZY drink. There were no food trays, so I placed my drink on the counter while I took my American street food to a table around the corner. When I returned to the counter, I found that my drink had been taken. Perhaps one of the thirsty new students who were milling about took it. One will never know. In this situation, I had trusted others both by beliefs and action not to steal my drink. Sadly, that was violated. Nevertheless, I walked off without my drink at the food register in that same building the very next day. The student next to me in line drew my attention to my drink as I was leaving, and I got it. My trust was renewed? Although my problem for ensuring that I collect my drink likely remains. The point here is that there are millions of day-to-day social acts that involve trust. Once trust is properly conceptualized and we sidestep the crisis view of it, then we come to understand the overwhelming prevalence of trust in our social world. It is not necessary to assert that trust is in crisis to view it as worthy of investigation, although the crisis view may spur on that activity. Let us begin at the beginning, though, by asking the question regarding what trust is. Dictionary definitions are a beginning. Popular definitions oft-trust the use of the word trust. In common discourse dates back to the 13th century, in Middle English. It is regarded as probably being of Scandinavian origin, akin to Old Norse traust, trust, akin to Old English treo, faithful, Merriam-Webster Dictionary. The word trust dates back much earlier, though, when considered in UNDERSTANDINGTRUST, a crisis OREVERYTHING. Excerpted from the Psychology of Trust Chapter 442, The Context of Religion. Trust in God is found both in the Old and New Testaments, Benner, 2004, as well as the Quran. In current times, the religious use of trust is demonstrated in the phrase, "In God we trust," which is the CL motto of the U.S. and appears on much of its currency, see Chapter 11. Aside from the trusts found in banking and financing, trust is defined in dictionaries as a belief that someone or something is reliable, good, effective, etc. Merriam-Webster Dictionary, and to believe that someone is good and honest and will not harm you, or that something is safe and reliable. Cambridge English Dictionary. This book will focus on trust in someone as part of the domain of interpersonal trust. Also, research addressing self-trust was excluded for practical reasons. The term interpersonal is omitted from the text for brevity. Elements of popular definitions of trust are, quite correctly, found in academic conceptualizations of trust. It is important to highlight that the conceptualization of trust in academic writings varies considerably according to the theory, framework, model, or approach adopted by a researcher. This very fact contributes to the problems that researchers with different approaches have in engaging with each other's concepts. These differences contribute to divergence in deciding whether or not the study and NDings are accepted by the academic community and publishable. In that context, I will now describe the different approaches to the investigation of trust. Approaches to the investigation of trust. Psychosocial theory. Erikson S. 1963. Psychosocial theory is regarded as one of the origins of contemporary psychology. This theory is the most commonly cited account of trust in introductory and developmental psychology texts. The theory posits that development is composed of a sequence of 8 stages of psychosocial development. Each stage entails a concept that can be resolved in a psychologically healthy or unhealthy fashion. The resolution at one stage affects the capacity of the individual to resolve subsequent stages in the sequence. The RST is the trust versus mistrust stage, which occurs from birth to 18 months of age. According to Erikson, 1963, during that period trust is an emotion that comprises an infant's experiential state of confidence that she is valued and her needs will be met. If the infant encounters that warmth, nurturance from her caregiver, then she attains a basic trust. By contrast, if the infant encounters a lack of warmth, rejection, then she attains a basic mistrust. The infant who attains basic trust UNDERSTANDINGTRUST, a crisis OREVERYTHING, excerpted from the Psychology of Trust Chapter 443, is able to delay gratification and exert control over his or her bodily functions, e.g., bowels. According to this theory, the emotion of trust during infancy profoundly affects the course of development. Attachment theory. Bowlby, 1980, and others such as Ainsworth, e.g., Ainsworth, 1989, have advanced attachment theory. According to this theory, infants form different qualities of attachment as a result of the nature of the nurturance and sensitivity of their care provider, primarily their mother. As a product of the interactions and the quality of attachment, a child constructs an internal working model, IWM, that represents his or her care provider, self, and the relationship between them. The IWM establishes a cognitive affective framework that affects later psychosocial functioning.